Hello. Mhm. So today I will read the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, Karma Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of the renunciation of action. So what are the chapters overview? In chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa Sannyasa Yoga, the yoga of renunciation of action of Swami Vijayanara Singha's Bhagavad Gita. Krishna described how to achieve perfection through Nishkam Karma Yoga, or work without expectation of any result. So let's start. The Vedic system recommends four spiritual order of life called ashramas. These are Brahmachari, Brahmastha, Garhastha, Banprastha, and Sannyasa. Brahmacharis are the celibate student, Garhastha are the family unit, Banprastha are the retired member of society, and Sannyasas are the complete renowned person who live a life of sacrifice, austerity, and cultivation of knowledge. Sannyas are considered to be at the crest of all social and spiritual orders of life. Vedic scholars sometimes debate whether sannyas yoga, complete renunciation of activities, or karma yoga, action of actions performed selflessly, is better. Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that both sannyasa yoga and karma yoga are favorable for liberation. Both paths ultimately lead to the small goal, but of the two, the path of Karma Yoga is preferable. This subject is controversial among some scholars because, according to their understanding, Karma Yoga is the performance of philanthropic works that are beneficial to the downtrodden section of society, such as the poor and the hungry. Such welfare work is indeed noble, but one should understand that when Krishna speaks of Karma Yoga in the Gita, he is specifically speaking about activities that are performed for his satisfaction and pleasure. Such activities are also known as Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga because the result of action is offered to Krishna. In other words, noble philanthropic activities are good karma but not Karma Yoga unless they are offered to Krishna and performed on his behalf. When Karma Yoga is established as Bhakti Yoga, then its superior advantage over Sannyasa Yoga is immediately understood. Sannyasa Yoga is very difficult to execute. One has to strictly control the senses and renounce even the simplest comforts of life, such as a warm bath, comfortable sleeping place, etc. One has to live in the forest first regularly and observe other austerities such as sexual abs- abstinences. For most people, this is very difficult, if not impossible. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, on the other hand, is easily adoptable by anyone at any stage and leads quickly to the ultimate goal of life. In Karma Yoga, one performs devotional activities and follows basic principles to purify, such as no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no eating of meat, fish, or eggs. These principles can be easily adopted by anyone. Similarly, the devotional activity of chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is also easily taken up along with meditation on the form of Sri Krishna. Mantra meditation is the recommended process of worshipping Krishna in Kali Yoga. Therefore, Karma Yoga is given first preference in Bhagavad Gita. However, when Sannyasa Yoga is dev- devoted with Karma Yoga and the sannyasi performs any and all sacrifices, eu- austerities and shares the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita with others according to the desires of Krishna, then such a sannyasi become most perfect and is naturally accepted as the guru or teacher of both paths. In the verse fif- in the verse 15, the word Viv has been translated as Supreme Spirit. Vivu literally means omnipresent, omnipresent, and this refers to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Conscious Being. When consciousness is omnipresent, The, con- the conclusion is that it is omniscience also. Omniscience and omnipresence denote Krishna. Arjuna, however, and other living beings of his status and are called Anu or finite. Krishna, the absolute truth, is infinite and the living beings are fine. It is sometimes thought that God somehow or other dies for the sins of the world. This is not a very intelligent idea, nor is it consistent with the spiritual science found in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says that he doesn't cause anyone to perform pious or impious activities, nor does he accept the reaction of anyone's actions. The idea that God dies for our sins is rejected. God is eternal, therefore he can't and doesn't die. The living beings are also eternal, but because they are under the bodily concept of life, when the body dies, they also experience death, although they actually do not die. Both the absolute truth and his birth and parcels are eternal beyond death. In the verse 18, the relative vision of equality is expressed for one who is situated in transcendental knowledge. The wise man Pundit sees all living beings equally as units of eternal consciousness. The distinction between various bodies is only an apparent difference between living beings. According to the Brihad Brihad Vishnu Puran, there are 8 4 0 0 0 different species of material birds. There are 9 lakh aquatic species and 20 lakh non-moving species such as trees and plants. Therefore, there are 1 lakh 10 11 lakh species of insect and reptiles and 10 lakh species of bird. There are 30 lakh varieties of quadrupeds and 4 lakh species of human beings. The unit of individual consciousness, the Atma, transmigrates through these various species from one to the another until it eventually reaches the human form of life. This process is known as transmigration or reincarnation. It is similar to the theory of evolution but distinct, different at the same time. In the Vedic concept of species of life are not evolving one into the another through the change within species is accepted. Rather, it is the Atma that is evolving in consciousness while transmigrating from one species to the next. In the human form of life, consciousness reaches its completeness through the process of yoga. Therefore, a wise man doesn't discriminate between one person and another based on bodily difference. The wise see the Atma present in all form of life and not just in human life. In the last verse of this chapter, Sri Krishna declares that he is Bhakton, Bhaktoram Yojana Kapsam Papasam, the ultimate enjoyer and receiver of all sacrifice and austerities. Krishna then says that he is Sarvalaka Maha Maheshwaram, the controller of all planets. Some modern system of yoga recommended that one meditate by thinking of oneself to be controlling and moving the planets. This is completely absurd. When one is unable to control the affairs of the world that's surrounding him, how then is he able to control the movements of the planets? This is not actually meditation, it is self deception. Sri Krishna concludes by saying that he is Shrudam Sarva Bhutanam, the true friend of all living beings. By far, the Krishna conception of the absolute truth is the broadest, most complete, in depth, and convincing idea of God known to human society. There are many conceptions of the ultimate source of life, being the all powerful creator and controller of the universe, but the Krishna conception is only concept of ultimate reality that embraces a love affair with God as a dearmost friend. This is exclusive to the Krishna conception. Therefore, it is considered as the topmost theology or topmost yoga system. Krishna says, Janadva, Janadva Mam Santim Rachati. Knows this one attains peace, if even there were something that were elusive in this world, then certainly it is peace. Peace is talked about everywhere, but it is rare, if not impossible to find. Bhagavad Gita gives us a key to peace. Peace is not found in becoming rich and famous, in being saved, or even liberated from birth and death. Real peace comes from knowledge that Sri Krishna is our dearmost friend. This is message of Bhagavad Gita. Tashat Das ends the chapter 5 entitled Karma Sannyasa Yoga from the conversation between Sri Krishna and Arjuna in the Upanishad known as Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Shastra of divine knowledge from the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, the literature revealed by Vyash in 100,000 verses. Next. This is not so big, so I would like to read this also. So let's read the Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, Dhyan Yoga, the yoga of meditation. So start here. Many commentators on Bhagavad Gita have mentioned that the method of meditation spoke of in the sixth chapter is derived for the eightfold process of yoga known as Ashtanga Yoga. The famous compiler of the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, has explained the sequential order of the Ashtanga Yoga system as follows. First, one should practice yoma, that consists of observances such as rising from bed before sunrise, taking bath, study of the Vedas, and performing pujas or rituals. Niyama consists of controlling the senses by following regulative principles such as no toxication, no illicit illicit sex, no gambling, and no eating of meat, fish, or eggs. Next on begins the practice of asana by physically conditioning the body through systemic bodily exercise and postures aimed at toning and bringing into balance one's entire physical organisms. Then one advances to the performance of pranayama, controlling the inward and outward breath by systematic breathing exercise performed in conjugation with various asanas. When asanas and pranayamas are performed or taught just for the sake of health, this is sometimes called hatha yoga. After pranayama follows pra- Pratohara or withdrawing the sense of the sense objects and training the mind to become introspective and intuitively oriented. Then one is able to concentrate the mind on a single point without being distracted. This is known as dharanan or at- attending concentration. Once having acquired the ability to concentrate the mind without distractions from external sources, one can begin actual meditation or dhyana. There are many forms of meditation in the yoga system. However, none of them recommended concentrating on nothingness, nothingness. The three principal objects of meditation in yoga are Brahman, transcendental light, Pranam, Pranam, localized super consciousness, and Bhagavana Sri Krishna. Samadhi is the final stage of Ashtanga Yoga, wherein the yogi, at the time of quitting the material body, attains the object of his desire, perfection. The yogis who desire Brahman or Paramatma realization enters the Brahman Yoti after giving up their body, and the yogi who describes Bhagavan realization enters into the supreme abode of Krishna known as Vaikuntha or Golok, Vrindavana, to associate with and participate in transcendental pastimes with Krishna. According to many masters of yoga, only Bhagavan realization is eternal even after attaining Brahman or Paramatma realization and merging into the Supreme Brahman. A yogi will once again have to come back to the material world and begin again the cycle of birth and death. This is said to be due to the intrinsic nature of all living beings to perform activities. Although in the Brahma Yoti here is a sense of bliss that is many thousands of times greater than material happiness, still the desire to act remains, but because of the Brahman realized yogi and the Paramatma realized yogi are not qualified to perform devotional activities in the association of Krishna. They cannot enter the spiritual planets and must therefore come down to take birth again in the material world. Sri Krishna again informs Arjuna in verse 15 that the final goal of yoga is to attain his supreme abode Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan. This is indeed the ultimate goal of the yoga system. One cannot be a yogi if one eats too much or not enough. Eating too much also means eating things like non vegetarian food stuff to maintain the body. This is not actually required, nor can one be a yogi if one does not eat enough? This is also means that one should not abstain from eating milk product by considering it as non-vegetarian. Milk is the most complete food possible. Milk products help to develop a strong bodily constitution and nourish our brain cells and thus our thinking capacity. Yoga is sometimes that has been practiced in India for thousands of years, and from then until now yogi have recommended taking milk and milk products like yoga and this etc. Only in recent times have some people thought it bad to take milk product, but the masters of yoga have never recommended such abnegation. People sitting posture, control of the senses and observing celibacy are also recommended in the above verses because without such practices no one can actually be a yogi. Gazing the tip of the nose without casting one's glance in other direction means being perfectly concentrated as in dharma and performing dhyana or meditation or Krishna as the highest goal. As far as possible, a yogi should try to live in a holy place to practice yoga. In India, yogis are found of residents of the bank of the Gangas at Haridwar, Rishikesh, Benares or Mayapur or on the banks of another sacred river like Yamuna, Kaveri or Godavari. Some yogis prefer the sanctuary of the Himalayas, others prefer residence in the Karadham, Charadham, Devaraka, Bodhinath, Jagannath Puri, and Rameswaram. In any case, the yogi must choose the proper place to practice yoga. If one is unstable to live in a holy place or on the bank of a sacred river, then one should try to live in an ashrama or yoga community. If one is unable to live in yoga community, then one should s- uh, sn- sa- sanctify one's home by creating a place where Krishna can be worshipped and mantra meditation can be performed. The home should be an atmosphere conducive for contemplation, study, and controlling the senses, such as home should be peaceful and free from acts of violence and animal killing, intoxication, etc. In the modern age, Kali Yuga, animals killing, intoxication, and so many other unfavorable activities are to be found everywhere. Subsequently, it is very difficult to find the appropriate place for yoga practices, especially for the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, Raj Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and so on. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, the recommended process is Bhakti Yoga and meditation is performed through the chanting of the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The chanting of the Mahamantra is so powerful and purified that wherever it is chanted, it makes that place purified. Thus, the Bhakti Yoga process can be practiced everywhere and anywhere. Bhakti Yoga is actually the only recommended only recommended courses of yoga in Kali Yuga. The yogi must always strive for self-satisfaction, knowledge, and realization. Realization. Such yogi will always see everything in the world with equal vision and therefore will not become attached to anything of a temporary nature. Krishna says that the yogi sees gold and mere stones as the same. This is not to say that the yogi cannot distinguish the brilliance of gold from that of ordinary objects. This means that the yogi of not attached to finding satisfaction in the accumulation of wealth. It has been said that the desire of wealth is what makes the world so round. This may be true in the sense that the desire of wealth is what drives most people to act. Sadly, we also see clearly where greed for health is taking the world to the political unrest culminating in wide death and destruction, economic instability and collapse, as well as extreme instability in the environment. This results in natural disaster and the extinction of many species of life. When the mind is restrained and peaceful by the practice of yoga, it is become detached from material desire. Thus, one can perceive the self and attain happiness, being situated in the place of eternal bliss, which is beyond and scope of the man, mindless sense and obtained through intelligence. One never desires from reality. Upon gaining this possession, one considers that there is nothing superior to this earth, does not become disturbed even in the midst of the greatest calamities. You should know that this is state of being wherein all miseries are destroyed is known as yoga. So control of the mind is uh, quite essential for the practice of yoga. The problem arises due to the very nature of the mind itself. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady. It wants to wander here and there from one sided object to the next. Even in the sleep, the wandering mind is active. But Sri Krishna says that the yogi must always endeavor to bring the mind under control of his higher conscious self. This is indeed the foremost challenge that a yogi faces. In some Western philosophy system, the mind is conceived of as the self, but this does not hold true in yoga, the mind is called the sense within. The sense of the body, like sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste, are engaged with external The sense of the body like sight, sound, touch, smell, and the taste are engaged with external objects, and the mind acts as the faculty that ultimately makes sense or sensual experiences, the sense within. But in yoga, the self is conceived of as a transcendental substance that exists independent of the mind and body. Therefore, according to the knowledge of yoga, the self survives the death of the body and mind. It is something completely different. There are many external practices within the yoga system, such as fasting and living in a scheduled place, that help control the mind. But owing to the nature of the mind being like the wind, this external method frequently these external methods frequently fall short of the mark. However, in the Bhakti Yoga system, it is recommended to control the mind by mantra. The word mantra originates from two Sanskrit words, mana, the mind, and prayate, to control. By engaging the mind in the process of hearing and chanting mantras, and especially the Maha Mantra, the great mantra for delivering the mind, the wandering mind becomes steady in the self. The Mahamantra is a direct sound representation of the absolute truth. Sri Krishna, as such, the Maha Mantra is both all powerful and all attractive. The power of the Maha Mantra removes the ignorance that covers the real identity of the living being, and the all attractive nature of the Mahamantra fills the heart of the chanter with inconvenient ananda, supreme spiritual bliss. Chanting of the Mahamantra to control and steady the mind has been highly recommended for this reason. There are five primary subject matters explained in Bhagavad Gita, namely Dharma, individual consciousness, Prakriti, material nature, Karma, action, Kal, time, and Ishvara, the supreme controller. The accumulation of knowledge is to understand Sri Krishna as the underlying principle of everything, some commenters on Bhagavad Gita have tried to explain the Gita minus Krishna. That is to say, they have said that thing as Krishna was a temporary manifestation of the Supreme Brahmana. Krishna has no eternal existence as a person, or that when Krishna has no eternal. There is to say, they have said such thing as Krishna was a temporary manifestation of the Supreme Brahman. Krishna has no external existence as a person, or that when Krishna says things like one attained my avoid, Krishna actually means that one attains something close of an impersonal nature. However, the true master of yoga and scholar of Vedic literature reject all these ideas. Bhagavad Gita, although surely mystical in that it delineates in great details of absolute truth and how to attain that truth is not an allegorical and speculative treatise on the subject of perfection. Bhagavad Gita is to be taken literally as the conversation between Sri Krishna and his dear friend and devotee Arjuna. Therein lies the open secret of understanding Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says what he means what he says. Therefore, an abstract commentary, a commentary or Bhagavad. Krishna says that means what is that Sri Krishna is everywhere in all things and with the hearts of all living beings is confirmed by the above verses. Krishna says that he is in all living beings as the Paramatma or all living beings in him as his parents and peacock. Krishna is in all the things and on who individuals to see in this way. Arjuna, being a self-realized yogi and eternal associate of Krishna, does not argue with Krishna over such conclusion. However, Arjuna does object to the rigorous of yoga re- required to attain such perfection. Arjuna was a family man with many responsibilities, so how was to practice yoga? Arjuna leads his care in favor of day day people in that the yoga system of rigorous mind control described so far by Krishna is too difficult. It is simply impractical. Krishna's assurance to Arjuna is that if one perseveres, perseveres, then one will certainly be successful. By understanding Arjuna's point, Krishna will indeed bring the attainment of the absolute truth into the reach of everyone as the Bhagavad Gita disorder continues. Arjuna's questions in verse 37 and 38 are very critical for our understanding. Arjuna wants to know what happens to one who participates yoga for some time but for some reason or another does not become completely self-realized and given up the body at death without having attained perfection. What is the description of? Let me stop it and tomorrow I will take the chapter. Hello, let me stop here. Let me just cool down it all up. Sorry, and I don't got my outfit.